Salve discipuli et discipuli. Welcome to Magister Malat's hastily made videos for learning Latin. So this is the first of many, hopefully. And today we're going to talk about Chapter 12, Extricatatio number 1. So when we come across a sentence, remember it's a good idea to start by reading the whole sentence, preferably out loud, and preferably out loud in the company of others because it freaks them out. So, here we go. Vos nobis de voluptatibus adolescentiae tum scripseritis. So remember, when we translate, we want to start by finding the verb and then the subject of our verb. So here, if we look, if you remember Sundays I drive a van as our word order, then we're going to look at the very end for our verb. And there it is, scripseritis. Let's give that a highlight. And when we look at a verb, we want to look at the ending first to figure out its person and number. And scripseritis ends in tis, and if you remember, if you look here at the bottom, endings, our basic endings are O, S, let's see if this can, right, all over the place, T, mus, tis, und. So, let's get that bigger. It's really small. There we go. Now you can read them. So, this one is a tis. This is a second person plural ending. So we know that our subject will be you. And we can pop that into our translation as we go. So, you, plural, well, is going to be doing something. Alright, so we've got our verb identified, we've got our person and number. Let's figure out what's going on with this verb. If we break it down, the next thing we'll notice is there is this portion of what looks to be the future tense of sum in between the stem, scrips, and the ending, tis. We'll also notice that scrips is a stem that we're not too familiar with. But when we look it up, we realize that it is actually from the verb scribo, scribere. So the ere ending here for the infinitive tells us this is third conjugation. Just going to note that. Alright, so we have scripts as our stem, ere as this kind of tense thing coming between scripts and our ending, our second person plural ending, tis. Okay. Now if we remember, a certain tense that we have just learned includes a perfect stem and a portion of either the future, a portion of the future of sum. So there's two things to recall here. One is that this stem is the perfect stem of scribo. So if we wrote out all the principal parts of scribo, we would get scribo, scribere, scripsi, scriptum. And you'll notice in the third principal part, which is the perfect, let me write this out because it's a bunch. The third principal part is the first person singular of the perfect tense. Active voice, indicative mood. Those two are less important at this point. Most important is it's the first person singular of the perfect. And the stem part of it, if if we just kind of ignore the ending, is the stem for 3 tenses. It's the stem for the perfect, the future perfect, and the pluperfect. Okay, so that was a lot of information. So I'll give you a second to process. Now when we identify this stem, we also want to see what comes between the stem and the ending. If it's nothing, and it's just our perfect tense endings, which are a little bit different, as you'll recall, they are E, isti, it, imis, istis, and junt. Nope, just kidding. Erunt. There we go. And if we get this stem and these endings, we just have the perfect tense. However, we have this stem, normal endings, and something in between, which is actually the stem plus tense form of the future of sum. I feel like I should get exclamation points. Sounds really intense. Alright, so if you remember, the future of sum is ero, eris, erit, erimis, eritis, and erunt. And then also sum. These are going to form the back end of your future perfects. So we know, because we have eritis here up above, that this is going to be future perfect. So we have second person plural future perfect. And it's going to be active indicative because it's going to be active because you've only learned the active voice at this point, so that's nothing to really worry about. All that really means is the subject does the action. Then we have it's an indicative mood, which just means it's acting like a normal verb, doing normal verb things by describing a normal action in a normal way. It's really the only way to talk about it. Yeah. Okay, moving on. And just a reminder, the imperfect of sum only gets one exclamation point, is aram. I'll have you do these at home. Aram, and then guess what's next? Eras, erat, eramus, eratis, erat. And there we go. So for the future perfect, you're going to get these tacked on to your perfect tense stem. For the pluperfect, which is further back in the past, I don't know how many of these I can type before I lose the line. Okay, there we go. Pluperfect, which is further back in the past than the perfect, you get the imperfect of sum tacked onto the back end of your stem. Again, that's a perfect stem. Alright, so that was fun. We've spent all this time just describing the verb, scriptarities. But in so doing, we've got the real basis for our sentence. So, it's second person plural. Our subject will be, so since it's second person plural, our subject will be you plural. Good. It's future perfect. So we know we're going to translate whatever the meaning of scribo is with the help of the verbs will and have. Alright? And scribo, if you remember, like a scribe is someone who writes stuff down. Scribo means to write. So our meaning here is you have to put it into a past tense. So you will have written. And there we go. We're off to a good start. We've actually handled about half of the translating in so doing. So that's the real basis of this translation. You will have written something to something about something, maybe sometime at some point in time. Alright, well, let's fill in the rest of those gaps. After we find the verb, we always want to look for the subject. So our subject is included in the verb, you plural. But we also have a nominative noun or pronoun, vos. This is weird. This doesn't usually happen in Latin. There's really no need to have the second person pronoun here unless you really want to emphasize that it's you who's going to be writing it. So for the most part, you're not going to see it. But since we just learned this pronoun, the book is including it. So this is a second person plural pronoun. So when you're declining it, you'll put second person plural. Then you'll put, let's see, what case is this? This is nominative. I'll pull over the paradigm in just a second. And it means, well, it comes from, we got to put the lexical form, it comes from vos. There we go. So let me pull this over. So if you remember, vos down here at the bottom can be nominative, accusative, or evocative. It definitely makes the most sense as the nominative here because people don't write people. That's weird. They write to people, but it's not something you physically do with a person. So, yeah, so it's going to be nominative. Second person plural pronoun, that's our subject then. So nominative subject, and we've already got it. You plural. Alright. Next. So remember with our Sundays I drive a van word order that we want to be looking for the direct object next, which is generally going to come at some point between the indirect object and any adverbial stuff that shows up. So in English we write sentences subject, verb, object. That's generally the general idea of the order that we want to translate things. So we want to look for something that is our direct object. This will be something in the accusative case. There's nothing here. Nothing here is in the accusative case. Generally we're looking for or we're looking for m, and that's not here. Or we're looking for os, or ah. Again, nothing. So we don't have an accusative. So the next thing we're going to want to look at, since we didn't find an accusative direct object, is we're going to want to look for the indirect object. So indirect objects are always in what case? Correct. I hope. I hope you got this right. The dative case. So our dative noun here is nobis. And we recognize this from the is ending. So nobis, again, we have a personal pronoun. So we don't have gender, so we just say first person. And it's plural, and it's dative, and it comes from nos. That's our lexical form. Alright, so we have that. Indirect objects and dative case generally means we add what preposition? to. So, first person plural pronoun means we or us. So you will have written to us. Alright, making progress. So we've handled, for Sundays I drive a van. Let me write that up here. Sundays, subject, indirect object, I drive, D, direct object, A, adverb, van, V, verb. We've already handled that. Let's strike it through. And we've handled the direct object, the indirect object, and the subject. Strike those through. That leaves us just with adverbs. Now there are several adverbial things that we can look for. Actually, there's only, I would say, a couple. The two main things we're going to look for are prepositional phrases and actual adverbs. So let's handle the prepositional phrase first. We have the preposition day here. Day means down from or about with the ablative case. Now, with verbs of communication, which scribo, meaning to write, is a verb of communication, day generally means about. This is the most common way you're going to translate it in this textbook. Not necessarily outside this textbook, but in this textbook, we have for the most part seen day meaning about, not down from. So, and that makes the most sense here. As we've gotten so far, you will have written to us about something. Alright, ablative case, noun that goes with day. Our ablative case is going to be voluptatibus, and we know this from the ibis ending. So we know ibis endings are, well, we'll have to figure out the gender, but they are going to be ablative and plural. You already looked this one up because you already completed this translation. This is a feminine noun. It comes from voluptas, voluptatis, which means pleasure or yeah, something pleasant. So here it is ablative and plural. So we just write about the pleasures, right? And then we have adolescentii. Adolescentii is genitive. So when we're going through our translation and we come across a genitive noun or adjective or pronoun, we want to make sure to translate that when we translate that part of the sentence, because it's going to be modifying something. So adolescentii is feminine genitive and singular. We've come across it right after voluptatibus. It's modifying one of our adverbial phrases, so we translate it now because we're translating our adverbial portion of the sentence. So we're translating the word it follows and is modifying, so we're going to translate it. Alright, feminine genitive singular. It comes from one of our new words, adolescentia. I can type. There we go. Which means youth or youthfulness, or as you can probably guess from the English word that derives directly from it, adolescence, which means youth, or a time of youthfulness, or being young. Wow, those are the good days. Okay, so you will, let's pop that in here. When we translate the genitive, we add of. So you will have written to us about the pleasures of youth or adolescence. Alright, let's look back at our sentence. What have we not translated yet? All that we're left with is the adverb tum, which means then. As an adverb, Notice it comes towards the back end of the sentence in Latin. However, we're going to put it wherever it makes the most sense for us in English, because adverbs are very fluid in English. I'm going to pop it right towards the front here, so you will then have written to us about the pleasures of youth. And those pleasures would be not having to pay taxes. Yep, it's a pretty good life you guys have. Taxes stink. Anyways, so there we go. That's our translation. So remember, when we're translating, we want to start by finding our verb, break it down, and then find subject, direct object, indirect object, and then any adverbial stuff. So the other thing really to pick up on is how we're dealing with these new forms of the perfect system of verbs, and in particular the future perfect and the pluperfect, which build on the perfect stem plus the future assume or the imperfect assume. And there we go. All right, last thing, in light of this sentence, I want you all to post something in the comments that you've been doing that is fun or pleasant, given the fact that you are stuck at home-ish. So for me, it's been really nice to watch the birds come back from their migrations and take nest in the woods outside my apartment. It's been really cool. I see a cardinal and a junco and a blue jay, so they're all hanging out, which is great. So I hope you all have found some fun things to do over the course of this stay-at-home order, and post one of those in the comments below. Wallet to everybody. Stay healthy.